We were doing cover numbers, pretty much like you were doing The Promise back in the day.
Yes.
We were actually doing Donna, the Everly Brothers. We were doing Creedence Clearwater Revival up
Isn't
around
it so
the bend.
weird? It's like
like
you guys were doing America, and we were doing UK, right? Yeah. The Philippines was doing UK because we weren't really covering American bands.
Yeah.
We were covering more bands in the UK, like you guys, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet.
Yeah.
But you guys were doing Everly Brothers, all this stuff.
Absolutely, but a lot of people don't realise that all the greatest bands that ever were cover bands. They learnt their stuff by doing covers.
Yeah.
The Beatles, for instance.
Yeah.
The Beatles were doing,
even Twist and Shout.
Yeah, they were doing Chuck Berry songs. They were doing Little Richard songs, and so they cut their teeth. They learnt their trade. The reason why they become such great songwriters is because they took the best of everything that they were doing.
The blueprint, yeah,
absolutely. And people don't realise that and there's a lot of people that say, oh, cover band. There's a lot of people that look down on cover bands a bit, and I never do. In fact, I work with cover bands quite a lot. I go and sing with cover bands sometimes.
Welcome to the Paco's Place podcast.
Visit abbaeservices.com for fast medical transcription service. This podcast episode is brought to you by AB Music Creative.
And the podcast will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, great pleasure, great honor to have one of my heroes, Mr. Clive Farrington from Farrington-Mann.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Speak closely to the mic so that.
Okay, will do.
There you go. You can pull the mic to you, huh?
Okay, cool.
Ooh, what an expert.
I've done this a few times.
On the mic. Steady. How have you been?
Good, mate. Yeah, very good. Yeah, and getting a lot of work done. I know it's been a bit of a weird time over the past couple of years, but
it has been.
Yeah, but it's kind of I'm not saying it's been great for everybody, but and I'm not saying it's been great for me and my missus and the dogs and my daughter, but it's allowed us a little bit more time, so we've been stuck in the studio and stuff, and keeping out of the way of other people for a while, and just concentrating on new songs and stuff.
You know what? I'm excited every time you say coming up with new songs, because not everybody knows that when it comes to writing for your group, especially back in the past for When in Rome, it was pretty much the drum machines were.
Oh, absolutely.
Were you?
Yeah, well, we were the first to have we had a machine called a Greengate, which ran on an Atari
really?
computer, yeah. And it was Greengate. They were the first people in on it, and it was the floppy disk. And it was an 8-track sequencer.
Okay.
So before we'd written The Promise, we started with the Greengate. That was kind of our that's what got us into writing sequenced music, if you like. And I'm really a sequence guy, If there's any one song off that first album that's me all over, it's The Promise, because it's got that dum gap boom. It's got that real sequence. I love timing. I love things that are banging time.
But are you a drummer?
I am a drummer originally, and I guess that's where it all comes from. It's and I've had some real experiences in the studio with drummers as well. We were at Nomis. We were talking about Nomis before, which was owned by Simon Napier Bell, who managed Duran Duran at the time, and we were rehearsing with the old guy in from Stockport, God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. His name's Mike Timoney. He played most of the keyboards on our album. He was on the recorded stuff. Because fantastic player. If you hear the sax solo on, I think it's I Can't Stop
it's him.
It's him. There's a sax solo on it, and he had a DX7, and he had a blowpipe thing that plugged into the MIDI port.
I remember that. You remember that?
Yes, yeah. and they blew this saxophone solo that sounds, honestly, people say, who was that on sax? Because we did have actually, I think it was Larry Stabbins was on sax for us on a couple of the tunes, but that real, the fantastic solo that's in, I'm trying to think of the song, because we've been writing new songs, I've forgotten all our old ones, so it's the one that we do live, and it's called... Oh.
Should we Spotify it now?
Oh, no, it's Total Devotion.
Oh, Total Devotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a sax solo on it, and it's that's Mike Timoney playing keyboards.
Dang.
But I remember being in the studio with at Nomis, and we had a drummer that was playing. And I'm not going to mention the name of the drummer because it was slightly embarrassing for him, because we were playing our songs live, and we kind of wrote as I said, we wrote our songs to sequences,
Yes.
so it was more bang on the
rigid
bar.
on the
So Mike Timoney worked on that kind of thing. He worked along with that kind of the way of writing, and then we come to do it live, and we thought it'd be a clever idea to have a live drummer, which was back in the 80s, it wasn't really the done thing to have a drummer with a sequencer, because there was no, I think in-ear monitoring had only
wasn't
just
that good. Yeah.
No, absolutely, it only just come into its infancy and stuff. So this drummer was playing along with us, and Mike Timoney goes, stop. He says, this is how you play the drums. Boom, cat. You listen to the click. Boom. And that's kind of what that was what made me think, oh yeah, that's because never know how you write, how you are as a writer and what you are, because you're just doing it and you're not thinking, why am I doing it? It's of course the sequence music, and if you notice, most really good producers come from the bass end and from the drums end, because it's the engine room, isn't it? Really?
Yes. Now, when you guys were doing The Promise, and I want to dissect that, because did the drum programming come first, or did the keyboard part where the pads were there? Then was that Mike going?
It was the drum. It was the groove that came first.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
So you had the whole.
So and weirdly enough, I have this thing where I even though I'm a drummer, I'd program drums that might be impossible for drummers, because every drummer that plays with us and plays The Promise, it's very difficult to play.
It is.
It's that bum cat bum. It's very difficult to stay in time. But now when we play live, I just say to people, let the drum machine do its stuff, and just play between the beats or play on the beat. So the drummer will just go bam, ka, bum, ka, and the drum machine will be.
Whom did you have in the Philippines before? Was it Paolo?
Yes,
Paolo?
it was. Yeah,
Paolo's
fantastic.
Good. Yeah,
fantastic.
He also plays keyboards, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow! I might just get him doing a bit of a double.
Paolo's good. Yeah. Okay, so you did that. And did you guys know it was going to be a hit?
No, but you never know. Of course, it was our only hit, but obviously
don't say that. I mean, heaven knows it was a hit.
It was, but our biggest hit then. We had a feeling about it. Because it was one of those songs, and people will argue against this. People that were in the band before and stuff, but it was something that came in that, because I have a recording. Now it's a phone, of course. So you've got it by the bed, so you've got a melody going on in your head.
Right.
You can just go straight into the phone and just go da 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 da.
Yeah, that's it.
In fact, I did my solo album that I did in 2013 with John Brooks. It's that was written from me dreaming about a melody overnight, waking up in the morning. And I've recorded it of course, I wake up out of this dream. I'm dreaming this melody, sing it into the phone or whatever you've got as a recorder, and it was one of those things where I'd get excited, get in a shower to get to the studio, and all the way to the studio, can't wait to get to the studio because I've got this melody that I've recorded overnight, and then I'd play it to John Brooks, who's a fantastic. He's as good as Pancho. Because if John Brooks lived here, he would be playing keyboards with us. I'm not saying that Pancho's going to get sacked, but
shout out to Pancho.
Shout out to Pancho. We would never ever do that. I think we could stand two keyboard players. When in Rome, we've been in trouble for that, because we brought Pancho in to be the musical director, and whoever we had as keyboard before it felt like they'd got the neck or the head pushed out or whatever, and that's not the case. We pretty much we were brought up on Human League and OMD and all those big bands, and right back in the day, even now, Human League have two keyboard players. Thompson Twins have two keyboard players.
Depeche Mode.
I have about four keyboard players. Yeah,
right.
So I think the more the merrier. And but Pancho is our engine room, if you like, our musical director, and he keeps everything. So in fact, we did a gig in Cincinnati about 6 months ago.
Is Pancho strict?
He is
with you.
He is with me as well. He'll tell me when I've sang out a tune and stuff. He'll stop the thing. He'll say, "Clive, come on, you'll have to turn your in ears down a bit, or put the vocal up in your in ears, because all I'm hearing is a flat."
Because when I watched you guys on Wish Bus, and you guys were on Wish Bus, both of you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he seemed to be the quiet one.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he's very serious. I mean, he's a classically trained musician, so it stands to reason why he's. And I went to an event with him at Fox Studios, and it's really weird because he
in Pomona.
I think it might have been. I'm sure. Or it might have been the one with it was Fox Searchlight, which it's Fox. It's still Fox.
Yeah.
And of course, at the end of the night, I walk out and there's a statue of Napoleon Dynamite out there. And I didn't know, of course. I'd not put two and two together. And Pancho wasn't showing off. He didn't say, by the way, there's a statue of Napoleon Dynamite outside the studio. But he invited me to this thing. It's where students actually score music to a film that's already been made. So they take the film score off the movie, off the film, and the students make their own soundtrack. So I went to watch this thing, and the actual students that wrote the music to this piece of film that's very like Raiders of the Lost Ark, for instance, like this, and conducting their own music, and there's tears in their eyes because it's the first time they've seen a 50-minute piece orchestra playing their interpretation.
Wow. And
it was kind of it was an exam, of course. They were taking exams to go into the film score industry and stuff, and it was such an eye-opener. It's good.
You know what, your song, no? I mean, The Promise, it has spanned like more than 3 generations, at least 3 generations already. Easy.
Yeah.
And it's been used in Napoleon Dynamite. When they used it, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
But are you aware that if you go on YouTube and you type in new wave mixes, most of the time, the first song will always be The Promise.
Well,
right, Benji?
Do you know what's really weird is when we wrote this tune, and because it's got such a weird drum loop going on, we were thinking, how do people dance to that? How we tried to dance to it and we couldn't, because we didn't know what was going on over in America at the time. Right. And in America at the time, they were doing the stuff, the Malcolm McLaren stuff, the Buffalo the Buffalo girls go around the outside, and that's how they were dancing to our tune. We played New York. We played the Studio 54 in New York, and we could see them dancing. We were actually up on the balcony and watching the people and the guys were spinning on their heads and doing all sorts of stuff. So in fact, I did a gig 5 years ago in downtown LA at this bar. I don't know whether was it White's Hotel? Was it, what's that?
Standard?
No. There's a hotel, I forget what the name of the hotel is, but it's a very simple name. And it's a white place, and I think it's called White's. And the bar, what happens is when you go down to the club's in the basement, and the bar goes down when the artist is due to go on, the bar goes down. So they'd asked me to do The Promise. They'd invited me to sing The Promise. So I go on, I get introduced on stage, and I come on stage, see the bar goes down, and I come to the front of the stage. These guys come on with me, and I start singing, and they're doing they're spinning on their heads and all.
How'd you feel when they were? How'd you feel? You wanted to dance too?
I wanted to join them. I did. No, I admire any kind of stuff like that. Anybody that can do anything a little bit different, and spend time. Do it. I mean, obviously they spend time rehearsing and doing all that sort of stuff. So, and especially when they do it to your song, when they dance to your song in that way. And I've seen when you say that it's the first song that comes up as a remix. We went to Brazil on tour in 1992, and there was guys out there, DJs, that had 4 decks with 4 mixes of the 12-inch, or 4 different mixes. They had the Freddie Bastone 12-inch mix. They had the ON mix and another different mixes on the other 2, and they were spinning between the 4 decks, and it's
oh my god, that's
absolutely, and they were spinning between all of that and putting their own stuff in, and it just and weirdly enough, it's very difficult when you've written a song like that and you hear it in a club. You think, why? I tend to think, because I'm pretty hard on myself as far as tunes go, and I think to myself, how could anybody have liked this?
Are you serious?
Sometimes I do, because not that I should rephrase that. It's not that I guess it's the feeling. I wrote this and I can't believe it. You know, that kind of thing. You know, it's like when you hear your own tune, you don't think it's yourself. It's a weird thing because it was a kind of an organic experiment. I went to Rome with the Pet Shop Boys. They were on doing a club day over in Rome. Believe it or not, when in Rome, Pet Shop Boy. Yeah. And one of their mums worked with my dad and one of the dads worked with my mum, and there was a real close connection with us and the Pet Shop Boys. And I went to a club with them that night, and West End Girl.
Which part of Rome did you go to? Did you go to suburbia? No, just kidding.
That was the next move.
Gotcha.
In fact, they tried that one on us. We said no. No, but we went to a restaurant. We were talking and blah blah blah. But then we went to a club and they put the West End Girls on, and I felt the same as I did when I'd listened to The Promise in a club. Because I just banged the mic. Then you'll have to edit that out. I'm sorry. You know, it felt like, because I was there with them, it felt like me listening to The Promise when West End Girls came on. Because I can imagine what they feel about West End Girls, because they've had so many big hits since, and they probably think, oh, you know, they have to do it. But it's one of their, when you listen to it again against all their other stuff, it's quite. It's different. Down. It's quite dowdy. It's quite downbeat compared to what the other stuff is. And weirdly enough, best man at Andrew's wedding was the guy that produced the video "Go West" for Pet Shop Boys.
Really?
Yeah. Howard Greenhalgh, who's done that, the cover to the album.
This album.
Yeah, he designed the cover. That's Howard Greenhalgh, who did "Snap," "The Power." He did "Jesus to a Child," George Michael.
He did a lot.
All of the Placebo stuff.
Wow.
Iron Maiden.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? My band, Intra Voice, was the first band that actually covered The Promise.
Oh, wow.
In the Philippines.
Better than us.
What?
A better version than us.
No. It was one of the. They were like, but it was so weird because instead of me playing the drums on it, and JJ knows this, I spent like 3 nights programming the drums on a Kawai. Was it an R100?
I think it's an R100.
Yeah, I did the whole thing like.
Well, check this out. We did the original, or I programmed, because I'm drummer originally. I programmed the drums on The Promise, so it was done on a Roland Dr. Rhythm, which was about that.
A small one, yeah.
Dr. Rhythm. So and then of course we got signed to Elektra, then signed to Virgin, and then it was time to hire stuff. So
we used a Fairlight?
Oh, no, we used the, well, of course, we used a Fairlight for the store. And in fact, Mike Temeny, the guy that I spoke to you about, he actually owned a Fairlight. That was a blue, the big blue, the big blue, the original Fairlight. And beautiful, of course. You've never heard anything like it before.
So warm.
Yeah. Yeah, then as well, it was expensive. Made in Australia. I don't know where they're made now, but they were made in Australia.
China.
At the time.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. and even better, just like Uggs, you mean?
Oh my God.
But talking of The Promise and it being used in stuff, my daughter phoned me up one night and she was in tears and she said,
"Is your daughter into music too?"
She's a singer, but I steer her clear from it because, of course, we're really into this. Andrew and I are...
Speak closer to the mic.
Sorry. We're really... Andrew and I are very close to the suicide awareness stuff, so we do a lot of stuff for charity on that front. And it's intriguing that it happens to more musicians and more art, film, film actors and stuff like that. And it's weird that they strive to they go to college to learn the trade and everything else, and they get to the point where they become successful, which is where they want it to be.
And then
it's weird that they don't enjoy it anymore. I mean, you've seen the have you seen the Avicii video where he says I really loved it. I got into this business because I love it, but now I hate it. And it's all down to him. The best artists are the ones that can say no, because most people that are around an artist, all they're interested in is making the 20%. They're making their their book. So that as long as the artist is out and out and out and that.
And you know what? It takes away from everything. Like with you guys, did you feel the stress of the pressure from outside?
Yeah, but we're very, very lucky in that respect, in having that one-hit record, just having one hit. I'm so glad that we didn't have any more hits, because I don't think I'd be here, I don't, because I enjoy the high life. I like having a good time, and I was 31 when we had to hit the promise, and I was able to go stop it.
Right.
And now we're really in control of our own destiny.
Right,
Andrew and I
run
the whole thing. We have Al Judd, who's our production manager, who does Wang Chung and Devo and everybody else. He does all our production. No contracts. We don't do contracts anymore. It's all on friends, and we do it as a friend. And if anybody rips us off, they're not friends anymore. And now I think we have a team where we know that we can trust everybody, and especially with Pancho and Al. We work with people that have got passion more than the money head. We're not into making money anymore. Yeah.
Why are you here, and why is Andrew in the UK?
He just wanted to. That's weird in itself, because the first time
and the internet sucks over there. Just kidding.
Well, absolutely everything does. the weather. Come on.
Too gloomy.
Yeah, gloomy. Yeah, I get every time I go home, I'm depressed. I miss the Orange County sunshine,
Right.
And so it's. I remember when we first came, and this is a great story, because we stayed at the Hyatt on Sunset, which is called the Riot Hyatt, of course. It's where all the pop stars, and it was before the House of Blues was there, which is now closed down again, and we played there as well since. But the first time that we came to America, we stayed there, and we met for breakfast one morning, and I heard a noise above me, and I looked up, and it was Little Richard hanging out of a window, and I went, "Good morning." He went, "God bless you, my son," from the window. That's Little Richard, Prince.
Yes.
You name the guys that were influenced by Little Richard, and that was our first thing. And what I'm getting to is that the fact that we were there for 6 weeks before we started recording with Richard Burgess, who produced Spandau and all them people, and Colonel Abrahams. So we were there. Our management at the time, we got new management, and they put us out there for 6 weeks. Richard Burgess was producing the Living in a Box album. Living in a Box. Someone living in a... for some reason, they put us out for 6 weeks.
Here in Sunset.
And we recorded at Sound Control at Santa Monica.
This is the first album?
Second. First album, because when we came to America, they sent us to America because everybody at the record company was saying, you've only got one hit, you've only got The Promise on that album, so we need 3 more. So we went to Richard Burgess, who'd had many, many, many hits, and he was just finishing the Living in a Box thing. And they put us out there 6 weeks before we started recording, so we were all over the place. They'd hired us a car, they hired us a Ford Edsel, which was banned.
Ford Edsel, yeah.
It was banned back in the day, because it had a weird shape at the front, which reminded some people of some filthy people of something different than it should have been. And so the Iders wanted a pink one, by the way. They thought we were Pet Shop Boys. So we were. I'm trying to get to the point. So Andrew, every time we woke up, every morning we woke up, we go for a walk, and we go to this famous place on Sunset for breakfast and everything else. And I'd love to live here.
Andrew said, or you said?
He said that. He said that.
So
I would love to. And I
ironic.
said, you must be joking. And down that area, it's not so. Down in that area, Fashion District and all them. It's not the cleanest place in the world. It's and you have to drive everywhere. I like walking.
Right.
So I said, no, I wouldn't. And then, of course, I didn't. But that time, I didn't realise they had beaches here anywhere. I didn't realise you had beaches and sunshine, and you could go and sit on the beach for the afternoon if you got pissed off with your work and stuff. So and then, of course, I ended up in Redondo Beach, which is where our agent of the time lived. He lived in Torrance. So I found a place.
South Bay.
Yeah. So we got a place in Redondo. And
you and Andrew?
Well, Andrew came out first, and we stayed at a hotel near where I found a place in the end.
Wait, hold on. So Andrew wanted to live here first, not you.
Yes.
But you ended up finding a place on Redondo Beach, not him.
Yes. Yeah, because I don't think he even knew or realised that there was beaches. So I took advantage. Well, I didn't take advantage. I thought it was the best thing I could do, and of course I was fighting with the not fighting. I was going through the trademark thing, of course.
Yeah.
So
did you make up your mind that, you know what, America is going to be my home?
Yes, and I loved it straight away. I loved every minute. I loved being here. I loved being on tour here. I loved same as the Philippines. I love being there.
Yeah.
You know,
Everyone loves you over there.
I just like being there, you know, because you can feel it. You know,
Yeah.
you know when you say that everybody loves you over there,
It's true. Yeah.
You can feel that, you know, and everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to help, you know, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to. Be on board. You know, you can be setting your stuff up in you know, for the gig and doing the sound check, and the engineers are all, have you got everything? Have you got everything? Have you made sure? You know, and it's just a breath of fresh air when. But I've learned my lesson now a few times. I always make sure that I get everything right before I get to the gig, so there's nobody asking questions when I get there. Because my pet hate is when I get to a gig and either one of the musicians or somebody from the crew will go, where's this going? Where's that going? Well, I sent them the stage plot and the input list 6 months prior. So I sent them up 2 weeks before, a week before, and to make sure everybody's got it. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. But in the Philippines, we never have that problem because they read it. I remember going to the Microsoft Theatre, and the production manager, as soon as I walked in, he says, "Is that Clive? Is that Clive?" And I'd done a stage plot that looked like the Microsoft Theatre, because that's the only way that you can do it.
Yes.
So you take the size of the stage and you do it by scale.
Yes.
And you put your stuff where it's supposed to be. And that's a revolving stage, of course.
Yeah, it is.
So even that detail was in there. There was so I put the line around the circle. To make it look like it was a revolving stage, and put because we'd had problems the year before. Andrew and I were going on stage and the monitors are not in place, so me and Andrew were like this, pulling
yeah,
you know, I mean, we don't mind. I've done it, you know, that was my job for ages. I worked in a hotel and that's what I did, moving stuff around. I'm not complaining that I had to do it,
right?
But when you send the stuff up front to say that's
it's
how
frustrating.
Yeah.
Why even bother to send it if they're not gonna look at it?
But that's why we have Al on board now. Al does I don't know whether you know a band called Above and Beyond. They're kind of they're the most successful unknown band in the world.
Above and Beyond?
Yes. They sold out the Hollywood Bowl, and if you just go on YouTube and have a look at that, the acoustic set, and Al produced all that, and that's the reason why we got Al, because that's kind of my yardstick, Above and Beyond, as far as sound is concerned, because the vocals are so clear,
right?
The music's kind of punchy without being too loud. Because, you know, you learn those kind of things. Because I used to, back in the day, I used to listen to my monitoring up far too loud. You know, when you listen to stuff too loud, you're really not getting any punch out of
Nothing.
it. You don't know how much.
Nope.
No. So I listen to things really low or on headphones now. So if it's really punching, when it's at low level, it's going to punch. It's going to punch at high level. So I made all of those mistakes, and including that one that I made. I made one in Dubai. I went to Dubai to film Microsoft SQL Server 2005, and for 3 days, and I filmed it, recorded it, everything. And that's when I learnt about the brain, how the brain works as far as sound's concerned. Because when you're interviewing somebody like me and you are now. Yeah. If there's a dog barking or there's a train going past, we won't hear it because we're deep in conversation. Our brains are cutting that out. But when you get back, if you've recorded something in that situation, for instance, if you listen to this back and there's a train gone by, when you listen to this recording, you go, when did that happen? You know, an owl might have gone past and twooed it or something.
It's so weird,
and you wouldn't, and you'd only hear it when you listen to this playback. So it's very weird how the brain works, and that was a. You know, you're never too late to learn, are you? You're never too old to learn stuff. And, you know, this was 2005 and I was 50 odd then. So I'd learned a lesson of how the brain works.
Well, you were 50 in 2005?
Yeah, I think so. I must have been.
So you're like, what, in your 60s?
I'm 64.
You don't look it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't mind telling you.
Groovy.
In fact, it's the other way. In fact, it's the other. I'm 46. Really, it's the other way around.
I think you know what, Clive. It's you've never come off as snobbish.
Yeah.
You've always been very generous to us. first time we met virtually, I mean, you were just full of, you had a giving heart.
Yeah.
And you know, like, we've known each other for over a year.
Yeah.
And I still pinch myself, by the way, that I'm friends with you.
Oh,
like,
thank you.
I keep telling people, you know, I just don't know the guy. I'm friends with the guy.
Oh, now we're friends.
Right? So I, you know, and this attitude, right? You're 64. Other people are done at 64.
Yeah.
I'm just here in awe listening to you talking about learning, talking about new stuff.
Yeah.
What's the internal of your mindset?
I
Move closer, Clive.
I am thinking about things all the time. I'm thinking, what's the next thing? Well, especially with music. Of course, I've built the studio in the van. I've just built a studio in a town in a Chrysler, and it was inspired by B-52s. I've got me a Chrysler. It's as big as a whale.
So the i3's gone?
No, I've still got the i3.
Okay.
I tow this when in fact, I've got a little thing on I've got an electric scooter as well. So I've got a scooter that goes on the back of it, so that when I go, if I'm recording,
you do know you're 64, right?
Oh,
and you're still on a scooter.
I don't. No,
you're not Tony Hawk.
I'm not giving up. You know that I've known people that have given up. You know, I've known people that have given up at 40. You know,
yeah,
and it's only because they don't. I guess it's because they don't have a natural hobby. My natural hobby is music. I'm always thinking music, and I'm always thinking gadgets. Even non-music gadgets. I just love things that you switch on. You know? And a little light comes on and starts flashing slowly, and it's not doing anything, but it's great. I love it.
So what about the van? I mean, so B-52's inspired. How'd you talk to your wife about setting up this van? Is it a minivan or a van?
It's a minivan. It's actually a town and country which has 4 seats in it.
Yeah.
It has 7 seats in it, and the back seats come up, and it has a table in the middle. So I've got rid of the back 2 seats. I buried them, kept them in the electric place, undid the wires so you can't press them up again just in case it brings stuff up. Carpeted it. It's got a sun. What's the name on it? Solar power that charges a generator, which runs the.
So you've got an inverter inside that's solar powered.
Yes, and it has an Apple M1 computer.
iMac or
it's the Mac Mini, the M1.
Nice.
Yeah, and and screen. I've got Hewlett Packard screen in there, and coffee machine. I've got a Nespresso coffee, mate.
We were just having Nespresso.
Oh, isn't it the best?
Costa Rica. What's your favorite?
We went the other day actually, weirdly enough, and they've got a new one, coconut, the cold one.
Yeah.
The cold coconut. I love that one, and we love there's one that's called a custard pie. It's like it has a custard pie flavour, if you like. There's the cat. You know, both of us are sweet tooth. We're both foodies. It's unbelievable, you know. And we both run around the kitchen and when we're cooking and stuff, and yeah, it's brilliant. But what I was going to say about my daughter was, you know, you said the promise was used in a lot of stuff. She called me one night and she said, so. You're famous, Dad, you're famous. She was watching Sex Education.
Okay.
And it's in the 2nd series, of course. The Promise is in there. And it was massive. It was massive worldwide, but in UK and Europe, it was even bigger.
Who decides? The sync rights for The Promise?
We have a very, very brilliant publishing company called Cobalt, who are very, very on the case.
They're very proactive.
Absolutely. Although they're only pushing The Promise, and we've got others that are probably more in a favour of film stuff, because Andrew and I are both into film music, and that's where we kind of started. That's where we cut our teeth, if you like. We first started getting into music by watching films. There's a dog bark.
I know, you hear it, huh?
My brain's not working.
But you know, like I mean, for The Promise, the mailbox money for that's pretty.
Yeah, it's all right. We're not millionaires by any stretch of the imagination, because I spend it straight away.
On the town and country.
Oh, mate! As soon as I get any money, I've got it. That's done. It's already spent. As soon as any money comes to me in the post, anything comes to me, I'll do Amazon. I'm straight on the Amazon.
I'm gonna buy more stocks of Amazon.
Yeah.
By the way, we'll be back. We'll have more of Clive after this word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Dr. Lourdes Capulong.
And we're back with Mr. Clive Farrington of Farrington-Mann. Now, before the break, we were talking about your daughter. She was talking about how famous you were, but she knew you were famous.
She's a great singer. And a lot of people, when they hear her sing, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But but I wanted her to grow up first, like I did. I mean, I was 31 when I had a hit with The Promise, and I think I'd done all my crazy stuff, if you like. You do your crazy stuff from 18 to whenever. And I'm sure some people still do, but I hopefully got my head screwed on a little bit better when we got the hit at 31 years of age. So I've always said to Saskia, you've got great talent, you've got brilliant talent, but you're not right, because young girls that are manipulated in this this industry, they don't really care about the health. They don't care as long as they're out on the stage
making
money. Mm-hmm. And you see, most of them have a burnout. Most even men, ladies, anybody, they have fallout in it because they're on tour all the time. And I really think it's because they're not with the family. I think that family life is so important, and I've made that my priority. Even though I'm over here and my daughter's 5,000 miles away.
I know.
I talk to her every day. I used to talk to my mum and dad every day.
I know. I'm sorry for your loss, by the way.
No, they were, they were 90 years of age, and I always think to myself, we only used to live till we were 40, 50 years ago. That was the average lifespan, was 40, 50 years of age.
But isn't it nice that they lasted until their 90s?
90, and my dad still had his humour about him. I think I've got my stuff from him and my mum. My mum's, when she was 90, and when you phoned her, she sounded like a young girl. Honestly, it's like she still had that real. But that's kind of hope. It's like she still had hope, and she obviously she was very proud of me, and that's what I'm really thankful for, that I was able to deliver them with a disc,
yes,
for The Promise and stuff.
Nice,
so
that's nice.
But we've got that. I've given that now to Saskia. So I've kind of kept Saskia away from the not personally. I mean, you can't keep people away from the business, but she has listened to me. And she's now she's actually started her own company now in the UK for singing at weddings. And that's the way big DJs start. The biggest DJs in the world start at weddings, because they're the easiest gig to get.
Like photographers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weddings, like
all the greatest photographers and producers, mixers, DJs.
Yeah.
They always start the stuff out on the wedding circuit.
Saskia's in charge of your social media, right? Or not anymore?
She is in charge of when she gets time. I mean, we've given her the job. We've given her the job, but she's just had a baby. I'm a grandfather for the first time.
Congratulations.
And his name's Roman. After the band. Yeah. So she's given us a
hats off, huh?
Hats off, yes.
Yeah. Speaking of The Promise, I mean, let's pick up again. So that song has given you a lot of mailbox money, huh?
When you talk about money, to us, it's not. We're from Manchester, remember? The symbol of Manchester is the bee, and it's the worker bee.
The worker bee.
It's a very working class where I'm from, and I come from a council estate which is very, very working class. We're not used to loads of money. And I think if we'd have had loads of money right at the beginning, and when we'd signed the record deal, I don't know whether, I might not be here now, right. Because a fool and his money are soon parted, and you're more foolish when you're 18, 19, you're more of a fool when you're 31. So I, in that respect, I was very, very lucky that we had that hit when I was 31 and we'd got all our stuff over with. So, and like I said before, it was easy for us to say, it's easier now to say no to people. If we're doing the Philippines, for instance, in July, there's no way that we're going to be doing Mexico in August. We will come back from the Philippines, wind down a bit for a couple of months, and then go out there. But of course, there's artists that get, I don't feel sorry for anybody. For even Duran pace it now, and what's at Depeche Mode they pace it. They do
Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
They used to. I was, Benji's bathroom, powder room, has a poster of Tears for Fears, and every time I take a piss, I look at the sky. I kid you not. Like, this guy has his poster of Tears for Fears, 1984. Yeah. 85. I was looking, while taking a piss, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, break. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah,
for 3.
It doesn't work. It's never worked. It's never. That's why that's why a lot. We're talking about this suicide thing. It's always intrigued me why it's the artists that mainly artists that do this to themselves, and when they're at the top of the game as well. That's the weirdest part. When they're really at the top of the game, it's because they can't stand it. It's because the stress, the mental stress through tiredness is the worst. Yeah, that's the worst kind of stress that you can have. If you've not had a sleep for 3 days, that's you know how you feel. Right. Imagine if you're not had it for 2-3 weeks, because you're expected as a band, especially back in the 80s. I'm sure it's the same now, but when you're on tour, they expect you to stay up all night. And there's so many different people involved with it. They'll say, oh, you're coming to this party over there. Oh, we've got another party over there. And you've got to come over here, and you've got to go over there. And that's what causes all of this. And you, of course, you're thinking all the time, I'm doing all of this, and I'm famous, and I've got a family back home who are wondering what's going on and stuff. And I think it's very, very important for anybody, especially at my age. I really have learned to pace it, and we will say no to stuff, even if it's one of the most lucrative deals in the world.
Yes.
If it's going to mess us up mentally. I'd rather not have the money. I'd rather be standing on my own 2 feet and not in the hospital somewhere.
What's a typical day like with you and your wife?
Just. She works as she's a teacher.
She's a teacher, yeah.
Yeah, and so she teaches me as well. So that she comes home from work and forgets that she's been.
Sit down.
Sit down. I'm going to get your tea ready. Be ready in time. No, she's not, and she actually understands the business. She knows how much I work at it, because every time she comes home, I'm in the studio. One of the reasons why I built the van, for instance, is that I can actually go anywhere now.
Yes.
I can actually go to the top of Griffith's Observatory.
Or and Beach Boulevard and just...
Oh, yeah, sit down there. But I went into Craig Park the other day and parked up and paid $3 to get into the park and just parked up. And there was a guy with a remote control boat.
Don't do that.
What?
Don't park by the park at 64 years old. When all the kids play, you can't do that.
But there was no kid. I mean, it's an old park. I wondered why that policeman came past 4 times. But no, I thought, where can I go just to get out of the way for a bit, just to so I'm not on. Because of course, when she comes home from work, my wife, she it's very difficult for her. She just got home. She wants to have tea. She wants to have coffee, and I'm in the studio. So, and I understand that. So I now have so if I've got inspiration, I don't need to go into the studio now. I can just say, I'm just going to go for a drive. I'm just going, So I go to the park at night.
You know what? This is so nice hearing you talk about this, giving consideration to your wife, and sometimes when I'd call you, you'd be. I'm going to Was it Argentina the last time? You were going to somewhere in South America.
Oh, it was Cancun.
Cancun.
Yes.
And I was like, look at Clive. Pandemic and all, he's traveling. And like,
oh yeah. I mean, I traveled all the way through it, and it was. And it's the stuff that I had to go through. It was I mean, I'm not really not complaining, but I got all my money back through the bank as well, because I got to the airport, LA, when my mum it was my daughter had just had a baby.
So you went there 3 times?
Yes, I did. I went for my mum's funeral. I took my dad to my mum's funeral, but unfortunately I couldn't go for his funeral because I'd only just come back. And getting back into it was absolutely ridiculous. So I get to LAX the last time I went, and they said, "Have you got this? Have you got that?" I said, "I've done everything that I'm supposed to have done in the locator form. Everything is filled in. Oh, you need the extraterrestrial blah 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 thing. There's an extra thing you have to do." And I said, well, and then you need to go and get tested again. Even though I've got my test results with me from the it can't be one of your own tests. It has to be
PCR,
there.
yeah.
So they sent me over the road. It was $80.
Dang.
Yes, and I missed my flight. So I complained. I complained to my bank. I said I missed my flight. I wasn't expecting that charge of $80, so I got all of that back. And then I got charged $500 for the car park, and found out that Uber own all the car parks now at Manchester Airport because they were losing money. Of course, they were losing money because they couldn't pick up at the airport anymore, so they bought all the car parks. It's madness, mate. And Germany. I was going through Germany last 2 times. I got to Frankfurt. Where I was at Frankfurt last time, and I'm a gadget guy again. I saw these headphones that look fantastic, and I looked in the shop. Were
they red?
They were $300. Yeah, red. $300.
Oh,
and so I said, I'm looking at those headphones. He says, "Have you got your vaccination record?" I says, "Well, no, I only want the headphones. You can just get them for me, and then we're done." He says, "No, I can't hand you anything until you show me your vaccine." I said, "You've just lost the sale." It's unbelievable. In Germany, they're more paranoid than anywhere. It's unbelievable, and it's. I can't really say much about it because I'm not a scientist, so I'll leave that to Mr. Fauci. Sorry,
let's throw it back at Mr. Fauci.
Yes, it's all down to him. We'll listen to what he has to say, and then we'll do that.
But now that everything's opening up, I'm not saying back to normal. It's just opening up, right?
Yeah.
Is there going to be another resurgence? Because you were just with Billy Idol.
Yeah.
And did you guys talk about like bringing it back, the whole 80s vibe back
to America or
to America, to Asia?
Well,
because you guys are also big in South America.
Yes, so, and that's weird in itself because the last time we toured there was 1992. And they'd not had gigs for a long time because I don't know whether you know what it was like in Mexico and South America. They actually banned pop music for a while. They banned rock music because, of course, the trouble at the venues and everything else. And it'd only just come back when we toured again in 1992.
Yeah.
And there's a funny story that Andrew will tell you next time we do it with Andrew. And
yes, please.
We played at a stadium. I'll let him tell it, but I'll tell you very shortly what it was. This stadium had not been used for a long while. There was 50,000 people there, and we all they want to hear is the promise. So we've got this little tiny Sanyo DAT machine with the backing track on it, and that broke down, of course. But the first beat, as soon as we hit the machine, it went doof, and loads of bats flew out of the speakers.
Oh,
like
really?
Yeah, they've been nesting in there.
Oh,
because they've not been used for such a long time. We just. Whatever the sound guy had left the volume control up or whatever, and we hit the drum machine and bang, and these bats flying out of the speakers. But that was the last time we toured there. So we there is talk. We've had some promoters requesting us to tour there again. So we'll be I guess just after the Philippine thing, or after when we do Canada May 27th and 28th.
No internet during the 80s. You guys were big in Asia. You had no clue.
No, not at all.
You guys were big in South America.
No clue.
You had no clue.
No.
And you, Michael, and Andrew were young adults from Manchester. You guys went to the States back there, and you guys only thought it was just the States and across the pond and all that.
Yeah. And I didn't really.
Is there any? No, I wouldn't say regrets, but what's the word? Ano ba nanghihinayang in English? Is there any?
You never would have done different.
Regrets? Is that regrets? Yeah, I mean,
no regrets. I'm a Walker Brothers fan. No regrets.
No regrets. Okay, but knowing that, oh my God, there was a big following in the Philippines back in the 80s, early 90s.
We should have gone. We should have come on tour, and I think if we'd have had really good management and. Yeah, we did. I mean, we had management that worked for America. I mean, we were managed by Tears for Fears manager at the time, Outlaw Management. And the reason why we had Outlaw is because they were successful. Tears for Fears had become successful in America. And I think, and that turned out where we didn't actually work with them after that, after we'd done the first tour of America. We stayed with Outlaw for another 6 months or whatever, and we decided to go our own way. But what we should have done, we should have come to either live in America or the Philippines or somewhere, where go to where it's all happening, as they say, go to where the pot of gold is.
Air Supply was so smart. Like, Air Supply would be walking at the mall in the Philippines, and we just go, Air Supply, and they'd be like, hi.
It's unbelievable, and it's a different attitude as well, isn't it? Because you don't Filipino people, I think they're more reserved than America and English people, because I'm not putting down other people.
No.
I think it's that you
different demeanor.
You appreciate musicians more than you see them as pop stars. It's not like K-pop or anything like that, where it's like,
Well, that's debatable now.
You know what? I went to the Mall a week ago, and they're the big ones. What they call
the BTS,
BTS. They're in every shop window, and they've got couches in there and they've got cutouts of them. Behind the couch, and you can pay to be sat on the couch to have your picture taken with them, with the cardboard cutout.
With just the cardboard.
Yeah.
And they get royalties for that.
Yeah, and I've got a poster outside. Do not pay for it. You've got the real thing here. No,
oh my God.
No, it's a whole new world, isn't it? And I kind of fear for them a little bit, because I think they're being pushed a bit too hard. I think
very hard.
Yeah, and I think that being young guys, I think that it will be a bit of a strain on them later on in life, that they've been pushed so hard, and they're not with the families are the most important thing. If they're not seeing the families for months on end, it's a very difficult thing.
Why'd you guys break up?
We decided one day that we started to do the second album. Virgin Records had paid for this place in London for us to record the second album, which was beautiful. They hired us this Muse house in London, and it was you walk up these stairs. It's I don't know whether you know Muse House. You drive down this just like a little road, and there's garages either side where they park the cars, and you walk up, and you live above your garage like condos here. Yeah. So and we walk in, and there's a wooden floor. There's a jukebox in there.
You still remember it?
I do. And there's an egg. There was an egg in the refrigerator.
One egg.
And I was starving, and we'd just driven from Manchester, and it's dodgy to eat old eggs, but I ate it as if it was like somebody might have left that in there for months and months on end, and it tasted great, and it was right, it was good. but I was so hungry. But we actually recorded some of the stuff with some of the beats we used.
I thought you guys, all three of you, fought over one egg. That's why.
That's exactly what we fought.
What the heck?
That's why we split up. I wouldn't give Mike the yoke, or Andrew. I wouldn't. But it was. I guess musical differences, because the big album at that time was Word Up by Cameo. 7 tracks, every track was fantastic. Sound wise, I'm not saying song wise, but that.
Right. So were you trying to compete with Cameo?
Well, not trying to compete with them, but we love that sound. We love that production. We love the more than the actual songs.
We meaning the three of you?
Me and Andrew.
Oh, there you go.
We came from a different school than Michael did, as far as music's concerned, because we came from the film side of things, and more of the funk side of things, more of the northern soul kind of thing, more of the Tamla Motown kind of thing. So, but he had Michael had the crowded house and split ends sensibility,
more of the melancholic
which I guess that's what made that's what made us gel in the first place.
Major, minor, no?
Oh yes, turning.
I mean, right? You and Andrew are more of like the major chord kind of.
Absolutely.
And Michael's the minor chord.
I guess so. Yeah. And weirdly enough, he was always playing "Imagine" by John Lennon, which is obviously a beautiful song, but it's kind of really depressing. But Michael, not that one again. And he thought it was a little bit. Michael said he says, I don't see where you're coming from, because they're a band that are so different to When in Rome, and nothing to do with colour or anything like that. I think it was a different sound. It was sound wise they were way different. And I think if we'd have had our way, we would have taken the album more funky, more sequenced.
Yeah.
Because all the for instance, Human League, Heaven 17, they're funky tunes that they play, but they're electronic, and that's the way that we want it to go.
How about the pressure of the first, the Promise? Really.
Well, you know what?
Clouding.
The absolute pressure on the second album, and that's probably what caused us to split up, really, because we'd been to. I shared a place with Mike while we recorded the album in London. We're from Manchester, of course,
right, yeah.
and I actually went on to live in London later on. But while we were recording the album, I was still living in Manchester, and we stayed at this beautiful place right round the corner from Boy George's house, and and it's called La Gaffe. It's an Italian restaurant that's got rooms above it. So me and Mike shared a room in the Italian. Fantastic. The guy's called Bernardo Stella, and I think he still owns it with his wife. And I hope they're both still alive, but because they're great people, and they used to cook breakfast every morning. And me and Mike would go down for breakfast and meet Andrew. Andrew would meet us at the place before we went to Power Plant, the studio where we recorded.
That's where you recorded it.
Yeah,
nice.
just after Sade's Diamond Life was recorded there. Yeah. And that's why we asked for Robin Miller. We wanted Robin Miller, who produced Diamond Life, because we love that the sound of that album, not particularly the songs, the sound.
Because the songs are all in minor also.
Oh, of course they're all. Oh, please, you're my best friend. But it's a lovely album sound wise, and she's a great singer, of course, and. So we're sharing this place, and it was dead funny because, of course, George Michael lived on that same street as well. So we're on the same street as George Michael and Boy George, and we'd go for walks, and it's where Byron's from, the poet, right on Hampstead Heath. And we'd walk that way, and it said Byron lived here and all sorts of stuff, and go for walks, and you'd see all the fans. In fact, we'd go down for breakfast in the Le Gaffe, and you'd think Boy George was having breakfast in the corner. It was a fan that was dressed just like Boy George. And when you go outside his house, all the fans were dressed like Boy George.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing I'm saying, that when you're that successful, because he's come full circle, Boy George. And we've done 2 shows with Boy George, and he's the most down-to-earth guy. You can talk to him like it's
nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's come full circle. He's gone through that bit where he's had the fans outside and he's realised that that's not the way, and I don't think he's ever been happy with being a pop star. I think I think he's just like us. He's a working class lad from London.
The guy can box, by the way. Huh?
Can he box? Yeah, can he?
I was so into Boy George growing up.
Wow, and his brother's quite handy as well. I think they used to protect each other at school and everything else. It's it's a lovely story, and I think Andrew and I are the same. We come from that working class background, and as I said, the Manchester Bee.
Yeah, exactly. So you and Michael would have conversations in the morning while having breakfast, and
absolutely, and even write some of the tunes, or some lyrics or lyrical changes for the songs and stuff.
When do you feel that things are like going different directions?
Well, I'll tell you when it went in different directions is when we had kind of a tug of war over the drum machine when we got to the power plant, and because I'd programmed the drums on this little as I said, the Roland Doctor rhythm, and then it came time to having the Lindrum. We could afford to hire a Lindrum, so that was then, and so I said, right, I'm ready. And then I'm not going to say who did, but there was a tug of, I'm going to program. No, I'm good. I'm the drummer. It's like they wanted a piece of the action because I think, and I kind of get. I don't know. I don't get it, but I do get it. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. I programmed the original on the Doctor Rhythm. Why shouldn't I program it on the Lindrum? So I did. And the rest is history. It became that big hit, and but it was going because it was brotherly stuff with Mike, and I love Mike still, and I loved him then, I love him now, and in fact I wrote him an email the other week to say that we got the trademark in Canada, and we're all good again, there was no nastiness about anything when we actually split up. It was purely musical differences. Andrew and I wanted to go on a different tip, and Michael was kind of kicking against it a bit, and Andrew and I thought best thing to do is just have a meeting with him. We'd go and see him and say, listen, we realised that you like that's the stuff that you like, and we want to go in a different direction. And I think it's best that we part ways, and that was it. And then we went through all the stuff, and I don't regret any of it, to tell you the truth. That was a learning curve, because I was in the courts, federal court in downtown LA, and I'm walking past pictures of Suge Knight, Michael Jackson, all the people that have been in court in downtown LA, and it's got pictures of Michael Jackson on the video screen.
Wow.
Proper paintings, like oil paintings of Suge Knight, blah blah blah. All these people that were involved in all again.
Oh,
Sorry, I banged the mic, so just to edit that one out. It was a bit for me. I thought to myself at the time, rather than getting down about it, I'm in a place where I'd never ever dreamed that I would have ever been in my life. In fact, my story is pretty without what went on with Johnny Depp. I think it's quite similar, because he's in a court that I'd never realised that I'd be going into court about such. I thought, we were made, and I think that was what it was. We shared a place together for such a long time recording the album, because it took a couple of years for us to record the album. And we recorded it everywhere. And when you're talking about the money bags thing, the album cost $300,000,
and you had to pay it back,
which we've not yet. Still. Well, they say. So we've sold at least, I think it's 1.8 million or something copies of the single. And we've got, what is it, 90, we're nearly 100 million hits on YouTube, which is worth $5, of course. Oh, it's 0.003%. It's just the
so pathetic, no?
How they get away.
$10 from Spotify.
Yeah, we're not on Spotify. Andrew, I have never been on Spotify.
Yes, you are.
By probably EMI Records, but not of our own volition, as it were. We're not on there of our own accord.
So you're not getting paid from Spotify?
Well, I've never seen anything. Well, I guess we have.
You didn't see the $5 check come in the mail?
We see one sometimes, and it's the Harry Fox agency, and I think they actually collect on their behalf. I think they collect on Spotify's behalf, and it's $1.50 or something stupid every 3 months. 100 million hits,
right?
And you'd think you'd at least have at least. What? 20,000? 400,000?
Right. The Promise has been immortalized by being the song on Napoleon Dynamite. It's like If You Leave for Pretty in Pink, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. What was the feeling? Did you know? Did you have any idea that it was going to be on Napoleon Dynamite?
I was working at a hotel at the time in 2003.
Oh, yeah.
I was working at a hotel called the Radisson SAS at Manchester Airport. And that was a job that really stood me in good stead, because I learned how to be with audience. Because I was dealing with events. I was doing corporate events.
Right.
PA systems, lighting, microphones.
They knew who you were?
No, not at all. So I was there. So I'm there at 2003, and I'm still there in 2010 at the hotel. And the people are saying to me, wait a minute, we just watched your film last night, and your song, we watched Napoleon Dynamite last night, and your song's at the end of it. Why are you here? Why are you at this hotel? I said, well, because I like to work, I like to be doing stuff, and I like, I'm not really keen on that, because I'm not really, although I've learned to like it now, and that's where the hotel came in handy, because that's what I dealt with every day, is people in front of audiences. Right. I've worked with Bear Grylls. Right. I've worked with lots of different people that have done presentations and stuff, and I watched them, the way they work and stuff, and because I watched them, I've learned to be a little bit better than I was on stage, because I didn't like it at all. I was very shy back in the day, even at 31 years of age. I wasn't really comfortable on stage. I like this stuff.
Yeah,
I could quite easily lay there tonight and sleep there and get up in the morning and start working on this stuff. Yeah, and that was where I was at. I didn't like it at all. So getting around to the Napoleon Dynamite thing, I was at, so in 2003, I get a call from Michael, who obviously we parted ways in 1991, just before we went out on tour. Andrew and I went out on tour to Brazil. So he phoned me out of the blue at the hotel, and he says, Clive, they want to use a song. I've been trying to get hold of you for ages. They want to use the song in a film that's coming up. and so they've made a request to EMI Publishing in 2004, and he said it's blah blah blah, and we did the deal, and he was phoning me every other day in 2003. Then I didn't even know the film had been released, so I'm back at home in Manchester, at my place in Manchester, and I'm watching the MTV Film Awards, and Daryl Hannah comes running on the stage. He says, "Forgive me, I'm losing my voice shouting for Napoleon Dynamite." And I thought, if Daryl Hannah's shouting for Napoleon Dynamite, our song's got a bit of a chance. Right. And then, of course, and then I was invited to all the stuff as well. You know, no, we didn't know it was going to be such a big hit. And I wanted to get to the bottom of why it was such a big hit, why this movie was such a big hit. Because when I watched it, I didn't get it. When I watched it, I thought, him throwing that soldier out the back of the bus, and I thought it's a wacky movie.
It is,
but you know, I was not into the Beavis and Butthead or anything like that. I was never into that. For me, it got on my nerves a little bit, that stuff. And to me, it was a little bit like that. It was like Butthead on a bus and throwing his soldier out. And I thought I couldn't get it, but I've watched it since, and the more I watch it, the more I love it. Especially when you go and see, because I was invited to LAC. It's called LACMA. I was invited
where
down
the
there.
lights are,
When they released the Blu-ray copy of the movie, 10-year anniversary, 2014. And I met the film, and in fact, Jared Hess, the director, was doing the.
John Heather was there,
and John Heder was doing the commentary with Jared Hess, the director. Wow. So they were talking about the film, and they stopped it where Uncle Rico gets the steak thrown at him, right? And he has to eat it, and he's a vegan, of course. Uncle Rico's a vegan, and they're all laughing about it. So, and then I meet him afterwards, and I said, Jared, what made you choose The Promise for the movie? He says, my wife would have murdered me if I'd not used The Promise.
See?
That was his wife's favourite tune, and it's in such a important spot of the movie, and it's where the guy gets the girl, isn't it? Where he actually you know, they start playing tetherball together, and he's found the love of his life, as it were. And it's funny because later on, a few years later, when I met Pancho and I started working with Pancho, of course he's a film score producer and maker, and he's working right now. He's very, very busy, and he was doing the score for a movie called Tournament, and he asked me to write a song with him about it. And they put it in exactly the same spot in the movie that it was in Napoleon Dynamite. So the guy gets the girl at the end of it. It's about a gaming shop. Yeah. You know, it's a tournament, and it's about the gaming industry and this crowd that got together, and it's all their interactions. And so at the end of the movie, one of the guys that likes this girl all the way through it, and then they go outside the shop, and he says, "Do you want to come for lunch?" And we'd written this song called The One. And in fact,
you and Pacho.
Me and Pancho, yeah. And to me, and it was just before my wife's father died as well, and we were able to play it to him, and he actually said that's one of the nicest songs I've ever heard, and that's nice. Coming from him, I thought that was great.
Who wrote the lyrics to The Promise?
I wrote them. In fact, to talk about I didn't even write them. I never wrote them. The only time I wrote them was when the publishing company said we need the lyrics. I actually sang it straight to tape. So I never used a pen. I'm not really a writer, even though I can. You know, I learned it in school, as it were.
Like, if you need a friend.
Yes, that came straight out as soon as that piano part came out. And there's a toss up between who made that piano part. So we like to say that we all contributed to that piano part. So Michael, Andrew, myself, all wrote that piano part because we all had these melodies in our heads, and it came from a conglomeration of melodies. So that came after the drums and the bass was programmed, and so that inspired, because if you listen to the melody of that, it's "If you need a friend." That melody, that's what inspired that lyric. So as soon as and we were running it over and over and over, and I'd just come, "If you need a friend, don't look to a stranger. You know in the end, I'll always be there. And when you're in doubt, and when you're in danger, take a look all around, and I'll be there." And then straight into the chorus as well, and that was written straight away. So And I'm lazy in that respect. I'm not a writer. I don't, it takes too long for me to write stuff down. I'd rather just record it.
Yeah.
I work exactly like that now.
Jay-Z does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, if I'll write just a tune, and I'll just go and I'll put some kind of melody to it,
Right.
and then work on it and keep working on it and go, oh yeah, that inspired that lyric, and that'll and it's always something that comes directly into my head. It's kind of improvised writing, if you like. But the great thing about The Promise was that once I'd done that, we sent it down to Andrew by tape. There was no internet back then, remember. There was no MP3s over that takes seconds to go to Australia. We had to send stuff by post. So we had this demo that had the first chorus on it, and
You and Michael.
Yes, me and Mike had got this. We'd recorded it directly to a TIAC machine.
Yeah.
And in this little garden shed, which last time I was there, I took pictures of it because we're actually in the process of making a movie. So some of that will be moved into the movie and stuff. So the original garden shed's still there where we wrote The Promise, and it's so small that we had to have the keyboards. Like for instance, we didn't have a drum kit. But the keyboards were actually nailed to the wall.
So you had to do it.
We played like that.
90 degrees.
Yes, and the mixing desk was as well. So we mixed it that way as well. So as far as the lyrics are concerned, I just sang that straight through a Roland RE501 tape echo, which is a weird. I've actually got the plug-in version, which is just as good. We had the proper hardware version. The lid comes up. The gadget man again. So. You take the lid off this thing, and you have a cartridge, and it has about 100 yards of tape in this cartridge.
Sheesh.
And it runs on a chrome bed.
Yeah.
So you put it around the 5 recording heads.
And then it just goes, yeah.
And it just goes round this thing.
So it loops.
Yeah. So it has a record head, an erase head, another record head, another erase head, and then another recording head. So you can actually program it to record on the first head and erase on the second head. So it gives you all the reggae tune. All the big reggae tunes that have got the big echoes on them is that machine. So we were running the vocal right through that, straight to the desk, mixed it on the desk, vocals, the first verse, chorus, down to Andrew. And I believe, and I have said this before, Andrew got the record deal on just the first verse and the chorus, and then he wrote the second verse. So Andrew wrote the second verse. So I wrote the first verse and the chorus. Andrew wrote the second verse. So he wrote the part, when your day is through, and so is your temper, and that was his voice on that as well. So we wrote the songs and sang them like we wrote them. So The Promise was written and sung the way that we wrote them, and Heaven Knows was as well, even though that's a double vocal right from the off. Heaven Knows, because we decided it's a great idea to try and put the two vocals in together, because it does sound good. Although the newer songs now, it starts with I'll open the song, and then Andrew comes in pretty much like the Walker Brothers style, so that you get that really nice rich harmony coming in.
Wow. Anyway, commercial break again. We'll be back after this word. I'm just shocked and excited. We'll be back.
This episode is brought to you by Dr. Lourdes Capulong.
And we're back. Okay, so now the promise is done, right?
Yep.
And Andrew's in the band. Andrew does the second verse, and now you're listening to the demo of the promise.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing, as I said before, it was fate for us, because I was in a band called Bow Leisure before, when in Rome, and we'd split up. We had one of those musical differences moment where we thought, and we tried so hard to get a record deal. We thought we were the new Duran Duran and everything else, and we had record companies coming, or the promise of record companies coming to see us, but nobody. Well, I'm sure they did, but we did. We were the closest thing in Altrincham, where I'm from, to getting a record deal. But we got frustrated with it in the end. That it wasn't going anywhere, so we decided to just stop that. My mum and dad had been to see a band in Northwich, which is about 10 miles away from where we live, a band called Rictic.
Okay.
And they said the keyboard player is really good. You're looking for a keyboard player, and we'd just been to see a band, and the keyboard player is really good, and the singer's good. I was looking for a singer as well.
But you are the singer.
I became.
Oh.
That was, we're talking Bow Leisure. I was
Bow
not,
Leisure, yeah.
I was not the singer in Bow Leisure. I was the bass player in Bow Leisure. Even though that's a funny story in itself, because I started working in an engineering factory. Before it must have been before The Promise. It's got to have been. I worked in an engineering factory when I was about 18, 19, 20. And the foreman at the factory was looking for a bass player because he was in a band. He was in a cover band, and their bass player was ill. I said, no, I'm a drummer. And they had a really good drummer already, a guy called Graham Mather. And I didn't really want to step on his toes. I didn't want to... He was playing with the band, but the drummer was the bass player was ill. And I said, no, sorry, mate. And he went round the whole factory. And he comes back round to me. He says, are you sure you don't want to play bass with us tonight? You're a musician. You played the drums and you know the rhythm. I says, all right, tell you what. I says, if you transpose all the songs to E, A, D, or G.
It's easier for you to play.
Open notes. I'll do it. And I went to Woolworths in my lunch hour, and I bought an Epiphone, Epiphone copy, semi-acoustic for $30. And I said, right, I've got it, and let's do it. So I was in that band. That was a great apprenticeship because we were doing cover numbers, pretty much like you were doing The Promise back in the day.
Yes.
We were actually doing Donna, the Everly Brothers. We were doing Creedence Clearwater Revival up
Is
around
that so
the bend.
weird? It's like like you guys were doing America, and we were doing UK, right? Yeah. The Philippines was doing UK because we weren't really covering American bands.
Yeah.
We were covering more bands in the UK, like you guys, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet.
Yeah.
But you guys were doing Everly Brothers, all this stuff.
Absolutely, but a lot of people don't realise that all the greatest bands that ever were cover bands. They learnt their stuff by doing covers.
Yeah,
the Beatles, for instance. The Beatles were doing
even Twist and Shout.
Yeah, they were doing Chuck Berry songs. They were doing Little Richard songs, and so they cut their teeth. They learnt their trade. The reason why they become such great songwriters is because they took the best of everything that they were doing.
Blueprint,
absolutely. And people don't realise that and there's a lot of people that say, oh, cover band. There's a lot of people that look down on cover bands a bit, and I never do. In fact, I work with cover bands quite a lot. I go and sing with cover bands sometimes,
especially during the hotel days.
Yes, absolutely, and I just love singing. So if somebody invites me out to come and sing The Promise with them, and they're a cover band, and it brings more people in for them, I'll go and do it. And I don't have any snobbery about, like you said before, I don't have any of that snobbery.
None.
People from Manchester don't. I'm from, I'm right next to, my house is about a mile from Wythenshawe, which is the biggest estate in Europe, which is where I think Morris is from there. Billy Duffy, the guitarist for The Cult, is from there. Slaughter and the Dogs, a big punk band, were from there. So there's a lot of big bands. Paul Young from Sad Cafe and Mike and the Mechanics was from there, who eventually lived on Hale Road, and there's a blue plaque outside his house.
They're all from Manchester?
Huh?
They're all from Manchester?
Absolutely, yeah. And you know why they sing depressing songs? Why all the Smiths? Because it's a depressing place. You'll notice a Joy Division, for instance.
Oh, again, mental health issues. What Ian Curtis did.
Absolutely, you'll note it in all of their songs. And this is weird because I was outside the studio where it's right round the corner from where I live, Strawberry Studios, which is where Unknown Pleasures was recorded with Martin Hannett.
Oh my God.
The producer. And his engineer was Chris Nagel, who went on to do our demos. So we have a connection with that as well. And I took a picture of the blue plaque there as well.
But you know what's up? Did it ever occur to you that where you were, you can buy a 30-pound guitar, play the guitars, write songs, pass on the songs, cut out a record deal, get played all over the world, while there are people in third world countries struggling to even get known. And this was the 80s and 90s, no Spotify. Now anybody can just write
absolutely.
that.
No, it was high. It was
But did you guys see the how privileged you were? All of you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we had 2 record deals. You've got to be. We were signed to Elektra Records when we did the showcases at Nomis in London for Elektra and Virgin and Kappa. If all the big record companies were there at our showcase, Elektra took the plunge on signing us. A guy called Simon Potts signed us, and weirdly enough. Simply Red had just been signed at the same time to Elektra.
Simply Red,
and I guess I can only guess and assume that they were so successful for Elektra. Elektra thought, we'll pull out of London now. We've done what we needed to do. We've got the big band. We've got Simply Red. So we were kind of left on the wayside. I'm not blaming the record company. No. You know, we weren't. You know, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know where to go. You know, they were what. Simon Potts came in to take over the Elektra offices in London, and then as soon as we'd signed and started doing our demos with Chris Nagel up in Strawberry and the brilliant Lol Cooper up in Stockport, who has Cavalier Studios, which is right next to the Blossoms pub, which is, you know, the band The Blossoms from Manchester, named after that pub. Damn. So, remind me where we were.
No, how privileged you guys were.
Yeah, so we signed to Elektra, and they for some reason, I mean, I can only assume it's because they signed Simply Red, and they were up and running. You know, I mean, Elektra was successful because Doors. You can't get bigger than the Doors, and of course for Andrew was a massive fan of the Doors because he has that look. He has the
I know, right?
He has the look
the pretty boy.
he has the Jim Morrison and the and the Michael Hutchence look about him.
I know,
but he's got his own look as well. Like he'd hate me for saying that. Andrew Mann is Andrew Mann. He's not.
Shout out to Andrew.
Andrew, yes, shout out to him. And so it was.
Like you know, like you'd be at the pub and go, oh, you got a record deal? Yeah, we got a record deal. Yeah.
No, when I'd go home to Manchester or go to my local pub to go, here he is, the pop star.
I know, right?
And I didn't know what to do. You know, you don't know what to do because you're working class. You come from nothing. You're not used to anything. Well, nothing. I'm not nothing. My mum and dad were great. They looked after us, and we didn't want for anything, but we weren't absolutely loaded. We couldn't afford just to buy any car we wanted anytime we wanted to do it. Even now I can't, but it's
yeah, right.
And I never really wanted
see my reaction a while ago. I was like, right. No, and then I was like, yeah, right.
No, even I mean, no, it's you know, I'm not a Maserati guy or anything like that. Although I do like them.
You do have nice cars, though.
Yeah, it's. We weren't in it for that, you know. We were not in it for that for the money. We were in it because we loved it, and I think the privilege we felt was because we loved it. We were into it because we loved it, and we were enjoying it, and we enjoyed the privilege of being in some fantastic studios. I've been in Townhouse, which was the Queen's studio, which has walls that move to make it acoustically different.
Oh, and my God.
Mate, I had to have a run through that. I just come and show us, and the producer's like, it pushes a button, and the walls change to shape so that it changes acoustics and stuff. It's fantastic. So I've been in some really fantastic studios, and I guess that for me is where. I felt the most privileged being able to be in these big studios where the big band. I mean, for instance, at Joy Division, we were sat in the bloody same chairs that Joy Division was sat in. You know.
Speak of chairs,
Ian Curtis has been in this one, hasn't he?
No, Vince Nantes was on that chair. Actually, Vince Nantes donated that chair, and you're like, who the fuck is Vince Nantes?
Now I want his autograph.
He's the guy who wrote Black Swan for BTS.
Wow.
On that chair.
Wow.
And he donated that chair to Paco's place.
Wow.
Just one piece. So we had to scour to find more chairs.
The other one that went with it.
Shout out to Vince Nantes.
He felt left out, didn't he?
I know, that's why when you were mentioning BTS K-pops, I mean, their first hit was written by the songwriter in that chair.
That's going on Facebook tonight. I'm gonna message Andrew right there. As soon as I get home, I'm messaging Andrew.
Oh my God! But see, you're walking history book, music history book.
Yeah, I just love it. I used to listen to John Peel religiously.
Really?
John Peel was the guy in you know, he played all the weird stuff. And there's a great story where he played Heart of Glass one night, Blondie's Heart of Glass. Nobody had ever heard of it, and I was mad on it. So as soon as I heard it, he played it, I wanted it. And my uncle owned a record store called Whites and Swales in Altrincham, where I'm from. So I went to him the next day and I said, have you heard that tune? It's called Heart of Glass by this band. I've never heard of them. They're called Blondie. And I don't know whether the girl's called Blondie or the band's called Blondie or whatever. And he says, no. I says, well, do you get Billboard? He says, no, we only deal with the European and UK chart. And I says, well, can you get me? Can I order Billboard to see what's going on? And at the same time, can I order this record on import?
See, that's the nice thing about the past, right? You could walk into a record store, your local record store,
and say, I've heard a song last night.
Can we get it?
Can
right?
we get it? Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
Well, it's too easy now, isn't it? I mean,
but see, Jay, can I borrow the album?
Yeah, I'd rather have this stuff, that tangible.
See, look at this. I have a. This is Michael's copy.
Just check the color of it, though. Have you checked the color of the vinyl?
I'm gonna check it right now. I'm gonna open. I checked it a while ago, but
check the color of the vinyl.
You know, like it's like you don't have this anymore. I mean, you're not reading the liner notes. Like it's nice reading. Look at that. Look at these. Can you take?
Oh, look at that good looking.
Look at that.
Look,
right. Two good looking guys. Wow. Okay, and then we pick the vinyl. Oh my God! See, look at that. See.
Oh, it had to be done properly.
You can't do this anymore with Spotify.
I used to love this part of opening a record with it.
Look at that, guys. Smelling it.
There's 6 tracks on it and a secret. You're not allowed to know what the secret track is. There's 7 tracks on it.
But you could backmask this thing. Just kidding. You can go.
But the thing is, it only lists 6 tracks on it. But there's a secret one, which I'm not going to tell you what it is. But it's not listed on here. But you have to.
Yeah,
it's
I'm going to play it. Yeah,
the last one.
Because Jaja got a new record player.
But what's really weird about it is the main mixes are by with the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra.
Right.
But there are some mixes by some Italian DJs on there that are like a bit funky and disco style, which really surprised me, and they sound really cool.
Look
really
at that.
Great mixes.
See, guys. I mean,
it's called Tangible Records as well. My label. That's my own label.
There you go.
So,
I like the logo.
So you can touch it.
Oh, look at that. You got August Day recordings, and Michael's band is New Day in August.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Shout out to Michael who can't make it tonight.
We'll sign him to our label, and then he's got the label as well as the name.
Dang. So I got Benji's album. I got your album. Wow. See, you don't have that anymore. You don't have that with Spotify, with all these things. You can't go to a record. You like people would go to Amoeba Music and say, hey, I've heard this song. Can we get that on import? Yeah. You can't do that now anymore.
You know what was really, really nice for me is when my dad was in his last few days, when I went to see him, he was in a home and I took him a record player. I bought him a record player and took him that. The Promise, and I was able to play it for him, a proper record to my dad, who'd been with me all the time, you know, from day one, from the time that I started to hit anything, when I started to hit tables and stuff, and when I started to hit or play a tennis racket and pretend it's a guitar, you know, he was there right at the beginning.
They even presented the keyboard player to you?
Yeah, absolutely, they did.
Right.
And I put that in the email to Mike. When I wrote him the email, I says it was my mum and dad that brought you into the band, and he says yes, and blah blah blah. Because I let him know that because his mum and dad passed not long ago as well. So
so Mike was a keyboard player who your mom and dad
had brought into the band.
Oh
yes, yeah, absolutely. They went to see this band Rictic, and he was in the band, and another lad joined.
So no Michael, no Panamaming, no.
No, well, absolutely. It would have not. It
wouldn't have sounded like that.
No, absolutely, it wouldn't. No, I mean,
can you imagine?
And like I said about Andrew, you know, when Bow Leisure came to an end, we decided to get together because I'd met Andrew out at the Hacienda and everywhere else that we used to go. I'd met him and he became a friend of mine outside of the music business, and he was supporting When in Rome as a poet. He was a poet, and we actually needed, because I was not strong on lyrics, or thought I was not strong on lyrics, because I was not good at school. I was not good at the English at school, and
excuse me, what?
Huh?
You weren't good at English in school. That was the only language you guys spoke.
Well, the subject.
Oh, okay.
I mean the proper.
The proper. Oh, yeah.
The Queen's English.
Yeah, okay.
And I was too lazy to be into it. You know what I mean? I knew how to talk it. I knew how to write it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get into the bloody the pattern of how you do things, and I just wanted to. In fact, one of my heroes is a guy called Quentin Crisp, who and the Police or Sting wrote a song about him called "Englishman in New York."
That was for him.
That's about Quentin Crisp, and he's a gay guy who went to live in New York, and he never worked. And he speaks at the beginning. He went on the tour of all the big universities, all the Ivy League universities, and he spoke to the students and stuff, and they had a question and answer session at the end, because he speaks about life and philosophy.
Oh, wow.
And so it comes to the end and they're doing a question and answer session. And I took this to heart, what he said. One of the students says, how do I write? He says, you're a great writer, Mr. Crisp. How do I write a book? And he came back and he says, never read. Don't read a book. If you're going to be a writer, never read a book, because you'll start writing like the people that you're reading. If you just say it like it's come from your heart,
like what you did with The Promise.
Exactly. And when people say to me, and I've written songs later after The Promise, and they'll say, why did you put that lyric in? It doesn't work. I say, yes, it does. Works in my head. If it works for me, it's right, and it's going to work for somebody else. You know, it might not work for you, and it'll be something. I mean, you know about artistic license. In fact, you can do anything you want in the arts. You know, you can put any word you want in. And even if it sounds out, in fact, if it sounds out of place, it's even better sometimes. Yeah. But you know, I'll always be pulled up and say, well, you know, it sounds a bit dodgy, that lyric, and I'll say, well, you know, it came from here. You know, if it comes from here, you can't. How can it be wrong? You know, how can that? It can't be wrong, can it? And never try to change stuff. You know, never try to be something that you're not. You know, stick to where you're at. It's writing is exactly the same as playing football or soccer or anything else. If you stick to what you know best, if you're a centre forward, you stay up front, don't you?
What makes you sleep at night peacefully?
Knowing that I have a beautiful daughter and that I have a beautiful grandson, and she's got a really loving boyfriend now. So I think that's, and my mum and dad are at peace. I think that's probably because I was definitely not sleeping. When my mum and dad were coming to the end and stuff, you know, I was obviously worried about that. And then I thought I was going to grieve really badly, but I didn't, because I thought they were in a better place and they were at peace. So I do sleep soundly now, because I know that my daughter's safe. I know I kept her out of the music business right at the right point when she's got her own mind. And I actually talked to her about that. I says, if you ever do become successful, if you need to know anything, speak to me first, and if you don't know how to answer, ask me, and then I will deal with. Because she wouldn't ever have me managing her, because I can't tell her what.
Can you imagine now? I'm sorry, but just imagining what you just said. I was imagining something in my head while you were saying that, and it made sense. But can you imagine the curse that you can never actually say? Hey, Paco, if you need a friend.
Paco, if you need a friend, I'm here. Honestly. I mean it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Clive Farrington.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget to subscribe to Clive's social media accounts. We'll post everything that we can post in the description. Please support. This is how we grow. Listen to the music, buy the merchandise, support Farrington and Mann, and let's just make it happen for everybody.
Thank you.